Think you know sleeping. Until you've slept medieval, you've barely begun. From segmented dreams to straw-stuffed nightmares, we're diving into a sleep cycle that leaves modern sleep hygiene in the dark ages. Before we start, let me know where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. Is it past your bedtime, or are you just waking up? Let's embark on a journey back to the Middle Ages, where the night stretched longer, the skies darker, and the concept of a good night's sleep was anything but straightforward. In medieval times, segmented sleep was the norm, a two-part nightly ritual that might just leave you wondering how anyone felt refreshed come morning. The night began with what was commonly referred to as the first sleep. This was the initial slumber, usually starting shortly after dusk. People would retire to their chambers, laying down on whatever they considered a bed. After a few hours of blissful, if somewhat uncomfortable rest, they would naturally awaken, often in the dead of night. This waking period, which could last an hour or more, was far from an idle interruption. Nighttime was a practical period rich with activity. Families and individuals would often use this time for tasks requiring quiet focus, such as tending to chores that the daytime bustle didn't allow. For the deeply religious, this was an opportunity for prayer, a moment to meditate amid the profound silence of night. But beyond chores and contemplation was another facet of this nocturnal break. Regarded as the perfect time for intimacy, the middle of the night was considered ideal due to the rested state of the mind and body. A kind of refreshed engagement, if you will, considered beneficial for both the mind and relationships. Once these activities were completed, it was time to slip back under the coverser, straw and embark on the second sleep, which carried them through to sunrise. This second stretch of sleep could vary in length but was usually considered crucial for feeling rested. Does this sound like chaos or an unexpectedly structured approach to sleep? As we veer toward more modern notions of sleep, where unbroken rest is considered paramount, the medieval approach seems both alien and fascinating. Stay tuned, as in our next segment, we delve into the sleeping environments of the Middle Ages and how ancestors found comfort, or didn't, in an era devoid of memory foam. As we shift our focus to the sleeping environments of medieval times, prepare to feel a new appreciation for your memory foam mattress. Picture the scene. Instead of plush mattresses and cozy duvets, most people were met by simple straw pallets for their nightly repose. For peasants, the sleeping setup was as basic and rustic as life itself. Wander into a modest medieval cottage, and you'd find a crude bed framer, sometimes none at all, piled high with straw and other natural materials not conducive to luxury. This straw bedding was often infested with insects, a situation made worse by the necessity of sharing your resting place with pets who brought their own critters along. Closer to the top of the social hierarchy, the story changes but doesn't escape its own quirks. Nobles enjoyed elevated sleeping surfaces, often adorned with feather-filled mattresses and lavish textiles. Yet, even these were far from the soft, supportive beds of today. To these medieval elites, a bed was more than a sleeping tool. It was a status symbol, steeped with familial meaning and embroiled in the legacy passed down through generations. These beds could be intricately carved, draped with velvet and furs, standing as both the centerpiece of the room and a testament to wealth. Despite the allure of featherbeds, they had their own drawbacks. Without the advances in hygiene and pest control we benefit from today, these upper-class families still contended with rather unwelcome bedfellows, fleas and bedbugs as they drifted into dreams. Regardless of social status, everyone grappled with the challenge of staying warm through bitter winters. With the absence of central heating, the hearth could only do so much. People layered themselves with what they wore for practical usage. Woolen blankets, furs, essentially anything that could add a layer of insulation. In noble residences, heavy curtains or canopies might be drawn around the bed to keep the looming chill at bay. The constraining nature of these setups echo an era where comfort was a struggle against the elements. As we marvel at how far we've come in our quest for a good night's sleep, from the pest-ridden straw to the softer, gentler landings of our present mattresses, we can't help but wonder how much we take for granted. While the notion of nightcaps and dual-purpose sleepwear may intrigue you, wait until our next installment where we explore how these elements wove into the nightly attire of the era, revealing social clues stitched right into the fabric. In an era where practicality shaped every facet of life, even what you wore to bed came under its influence. Enter the world of nightcaps and surprising versatility in medieval sleepwear, where function met fashion under the starlit skies. Nightcaps were more than just warmth providers. They were essential companions during chilly nights in drafty medieval homes. Without central heating, retaining body warmth was vital. These caps served a dual-purpose insulation against the cold and a statement of one's social standing. Women's nightcaps, in particular, could be adorned with lace or intricate embroidery, subtly speaking to the wearer's social rank even in the privacy of their chambers. What's fascinating is that in medieval times, a nightcap wasn't just a hat worn indoors. It was an integral part of sleep routine, especially for women. The act of donning a nightcap held social implications, bearing whispered meanings of modesty and domesticity, whispering stories of intimate safety against the lurking night chill. For many, it was a symbol of protection from the humid night air that was believed to cause ailments. Now, on to sleepwear. Imagine garments pulling double duty. The distinction between daywear and nightwear blurred as people often slept in the same clothing they wore during the day. Layers of undergarments, long shirts or chemises served as pajamas, and practicality reigned supreme. This dual-purpose attire wasn't merely due to necessity, but also due to a perception of space as a communal entity rather than a private refuge. Personal space was a rarity and luxury few could afford. The concept of changing clothes was differentless of a wardrobe switch and more of an adaptation to time and activity. The communal sleeping quarters, particularly in poorer households, acted as the family hub, where clothing for work, daytime and nighttime blended into one fabric of medieval life. Our modern-day pajama drawers might confuse a medieval sleeper, not accustomed to the idea of separate sleep attire. As you slip into lightweight sleep clothes tonight, consider the sheer practicality shaped by necessity rather than fashion. The idea of a distinctly private night wardrobe might seem foreigner, even indulgent to our ancestors, who knew all too well the art of layering for survival. As we navigate through these nighttime rituals, the layers of history peel back to reveal customs molded by necessity yet rich with subtle social cues. If you think sleeping alongside your snoring partner is challenging, imagine what it was like in a medieval inn, where the definition of a private room was a mere dream, and sharing your bed with strangers and sometimes even livestock was a reality of nightly life. Step inside a medieval inn, and you're entering a world of enforced communal living. These establishments, often the only refuge for travellers, were crowded spaces where beds were a premium luxury, and every available nook was meant to generate income. Privacy wasn't a feature on the medieval hospitality checklist. Rather, beds were hotbeds of sharing. More than just space economization, snuggling up with a warm body even, if unfamiliar was a matter of survival against the frigid night. Inns, functioning as cradles of camaraderie or intricately elaborate social faux, hosted a peculiar mix of guests. It wasn't uncommon to find yourself wedged between merchants, pilgrims or farmers, your unintended bedfellows for the night. The goal was mutual survival warding off the chill that could seep through stone walls, as the medieval folk knew too well the cold hand of frostbite. But it wasn't just humans seeking warmth. In rural locales, or during livestock-driven pilgrimages, beds conspired with other beings for heat yace. Animals could also claim a share of the space. Goats, dogs, or sometimes even chickens played the part of warmth providers. It was a symbiotic existence, born of necessity, and reflected the close bond medieval people held with their animals. The presence of livestock, which may sound unimaginable to modern sleepers, was a reminder of their reliance on these creatures for survival, not merely by companionship, but by shared body heat. This might sound like a recipe for chaos, and indeed, it sometimes was. The blend of snores from both humans and animals, coupled with late-night chatter, could craft a cacophony that seemed miles away from today's white noise machines. Yet, amidst the clamour, a kinship emerged. Strangers might go to bed as just that, but wake with the feeling of shared experience underscoring their brief encounter. As hard as we may find it to comprehend such sharing today, it reveals an aspect of medieval life built on community necessity rather than individual comfort. The notion of personal space was fluid, dictated by the elements and circumstances, transforming every night into a small social adventure under the medieval roof. In a world where the veil between the mortal and the mystical was ever thin, sleep was both an escape and a spiritual journey. For medieval individuals, lying down at night was not just yielding to weariness, but an act steeped in ritual and wrapped in the divine. The boundary between waking life and dreamland was a passage not taken lightly but approached with reverence and awe. Bedtime was ushered in with prayers, a firm invocation against the lurking shadows of the night. The recitation of prayers was more than mere routine. It was armor for the soul, a spiritual safeguard to ensure a safe journey through the vulnerable hours of darkness. Words, whispered repetitively, were seen as a barrier against the malevolent spirits believed to wander when the world slept. Medieval dreams were perceived as messages directly from Godor at times, demonically influenced deceptions. This belief gave dreams a weight and consequence unknown to us today. Consequently, dream interpretations were both a scholarly pursuit and a personal endeavor, rendering dreams less as fragments of the subconscious and more as coded messages layered with spiritual significance. Consider, for example, the tale chronicled by a pious clerk who dreamt of a mighty steed in a vast field. To us, the vision might be simply peculiar midnight fabrication. To this medieval dreamer, it was a divine sign of forthcoming prosperity and a reaffirmation of faith, nurturing hope and guiding his life's decisions. Alternatively, a nightmare involving wild beasts could drive a person to seek spiritual cleansing, convinced it was a warning of sin unrepented. Further complicating the journey of sleep were the superstitions that dictated the evening ceremonials, burning herbs to ward off evil spirits or placing relics under the pillow for protection. The night was seen not just as a time for rest, but as a domain where spiritual warfare was waged subtly but relentlessly. As the candle flickered its last light, casting elongated shadows across chalk-stained walls, each sleeper embodied a pilgrim in a sacred ritual. They navigated this netherworld with trepidation, but also with implicit trust in their spiritual companions, invisible yet guiding. But, just as the rhythm of night's sway was embraced with solemnity, what awaited them in the realm of sleep was unpredictable. The night's embrace was never entirely placid, for amidst the chants and prayers, one never truly knew where the boundaries of dreams would lead if left unchecked. As night deepened in medieval times, the tranquility one might associate with sleep was often a rare occurrence. Instead of silent nights, lulled by gentle breezes, the ears of medieval sleepers were bombarded with a crescendo of nocturnal disturbances that would leave even the soundest sleeper restless. Imagine lying on your straw-stuffed bedding, surrounded by the periodic lulls of silence, interrupted by the tolling of church bells. These bells rang out not just to mark the hours, but to signal prayers, town alarms, or the ghostly presence of curfews. For the townsfolk, this ceaseless clanging provided a strange sense of comfort, a communal heartbeat ticking away the night hours. Yet, for those desperate for uninterrupted slumber, it was a tether anchoring them to wakefulness. Beyond the reach of the campanologist's efforts, the chaos was equally relentless. Streets resonated with the sounds of animals, stirring horses in their stables, the occasional rumbling ox cart, or street dogs in heated debates that echoed into the dark. These sounds created a raucous symphony beneath the shroud of darkness, compelling one to adapt or lose sleep entirely. Even those tucked away in grand manors were not immune. As the more remote the region, the likelier one might feel the earth shake with the distant clash of arms. Thanks to the ever-looming dread of conflict, sieges could erupt without warning, their thunderous approach reverberating over hills and heralding unrest. To the dreamscape of a medieval sleeper, each night held a latent anxiety, a potential prologue of impending upheaval awaiting daylight's arrival. But amid this pandemonium, medieval folk demonstrated a remarkable adaptability. The ability to find slumber amidst public announcements, livestock choirs, and even rallying armies was near miraculous and a testament to the human capacity for resilience. Anything less would have been a daily defeat in endurance. Still, as you lay enveloped by the muffled clamour of the living world, what worries linger? Would the clamour outside ultimately seep into the fabric of dreams? Indeed, the ability to rest deeply or stir as a result of such nightly chaos was a lottery of fate. If one listens closely, however, does the promise of daybreak bring only the usual sounds of towns and fields awaking? Or might it unveil the onset of notable change just beyond the horizon? In the labyrinth of medieval sleep, the manner of resting the positions and superstitions surrounding this nightly ritual was as varied and peculiar as the dreams themselves. Sleep for medieval people was not just an unconscious drift into stillness. It was an art, a practice informed by tradition and beliefs, each unique posture embodying a worldview steeped in mysticism and practicality. Some individuals chose to sleep upright. It may seem a peculiar stance to modern eyes, but the practice held both medical and spiritual significance. Medically, it was believed that sleeping propped up could aid digestion and reduce the risk of nocturnal choking, a horror exacerbated by the lack of advanced medical knowledge. Spiritually, the seemingly awkward posture was steeped in resurrection symbolism. Mimicking the eventual ascent of souls and was thought to align with the heart more closely to the divine. Lying flat, in contrast, mirrored the repose of death, an image unsettling to those who fervently held superstitions at the core of their nighttime rituals. The fear was that, in such a position, one might be more susceptible to the realm of spirits or invite peril from lurking phantoms. For others, the quietude of the flat pose was practical restraint. It was a way to bury worries by drawing an invisible curtain between oneself and malevolent forces. However, certain postures carried mundane wisdom too. Spooning close to others in a shared bed was not just a relic of relational intimacy, but a comfort against the chilling air. The embrace shared warmth, a silent bond conferring protection against the elements. Such closeness also ensured alarm. Whether it was for protection from the cold or the awl, too frequent bedbug infestation, sharing forcefully mirrored both a communal wellness and vigilance. The astute medieval sleeper, mindful of the ethereal and corporeal threats of the night, would engage in rituals before surrendering to dreams. Herbs tucked beneath pillows warded off nightmares, and amulets draped around necks were safeguards against unseen forces. Even the direction one faced might adjust depending on beliefs about spiritual pathways and favourable alignments. Head toward the Holy Lands, feet toward the sunrise. Yet, for all these preparations, each night retained its sheen of unpredictability, a tension finely woven into the habitual. The intersection of learned routine and arcane superstitions ensured that sleep teetered between holy foresight and chaotic revelation. As we've woven through the tapestry of the medieval nightscape, it's clear that sleeping in the Middle Ages was as multifaceted as life itself yet. The evolution of sleep was not solely reserved for nocturnal rest. Enter the intraday phenomenon known as the nap, an interlude valued by nobles and labourers alike, providing a critical moment of respite amidst a sun-drenched world teeming with toil and duty. In medieval society, daytime slumber took on a form distinct from our modern power nap. The medieval version was steeped in necessity and flavoured with the pragmatism of the era. For peasants, whose lives were regimented by the natural clock of daylight and seasons, a brief nap might occur mid-afternoon, stealing precious moments of quiet to recharge weary bodies after a morning of back-breaking labour. Oasis-like, such pauses were brief sanctuaries from relentless agricultural demands, offering just enough renewal to finish the tasks before sunset. Meanwhile, in the more opulent circles of the nobility, napping became a status symbol, reflecting not just physical need, but luxury and time affluence. Nobles might retreat to private chambers cloaked in velvet curtains, accessing a chamber reserved for repose that mirrored the intricacies of their nighttime domain. Naps, in those quarters, were structured intermissions, punctuated with soft music or fragrant tapestries to stimulate serene states of consciousness, a testament to the wealth one could command even over personal rest. Beyond practical variances, napping in the Middle Ages entwined with the mental and spiritual. Folklore was rife with tales of inspirations received during these daylight dreams, believed to be moments when the mind was most open to divine whispers or artistic muse. Individuals often awoke with newfound clarity, whether driven by heavenly insight or the simple relief of a re-energized mind. However, such stolen times of leisure did not always find universal acceptance. An ingrained suspicion from the productivity-focused clergy sometimes considered naps as indulgent idleness, creating friction with the ethos that every waking moment should advance work or worship. This made the act itself a delicate dancer necessary relief, tinged with the potential for societal judgment. As the sun began to set again, the rhythm of medieval life returned to the cycle of segmented night hours. But the practice of daytime rest was an art in its own right, a facet of life as enigmatic as it was essential. As the shadows lengthen and the medieval evening unfolds, the world slips once more into its dual embrace of work and wonder, marked by the return to the night-segmented slumber. But what of the moments between these slumbers, when the dim hours of the night carry forth their unseen and often unspoken intrigues? This interlude, wedged artfully between the first sleep and the second sleep, is a peculiar epoch unto itself, a time when medieval life pulses with an unexpected vibrancy. During these quiet hours, roughly around midnight, life unfurls in hushed tones and stealthy movements. This was a precious interval. Many felt imbued with a unique kind of magic. Known informally as the watch period, it formed a bridge across which a variety of nocturnal activities crossed. For the medieval household, this time was far from a void. It was instead an opportunity to engage in reflective prayer, quiet meditation, or even covert business dealings beneath the canopy of night. This intermission, however, was not solely devoted to contemplation. Practical needs dominated too. Families might rise to tend fires, staving off the biting chill that seeped through stone walls. Some took to household tasks that could not be completed during daylight, such as mending clothes or preparing dough to rise for the morning bread. Others found this a time to relieve household animals, checking on livestock or stepping outside to listen to the world, slipping into a subdued cadence. Notably, this period was considered ideal for intimacy. Couples, freed temporarily from the day's rigid demands and fatigue, might find their way to each other. In this quiet hush, conversations deepened, and connections renewed under the muted glow of starlight filtering through wooden shutters. Nonetheless, it was also during these hours that darker aspects of life sometimes came to the forefront. The tranquility of night often acted as a burglar's ally, with thieves and miscreants taking advantage of the calm to ply their illicit trades. The watch period was also when folklore inspired fears of the supernatural, of witches whispering incantations, or of nocturnal spirits slipping past undetected, lending an undercurrent of tension to the stillness. In monasteries and convents, the watch was steeped in sacred routine. Monastic bells summoned the devout to nocturnes, embodying a spiritual continuity alongside the earthly endeavours unfolding elsewhere. As the bells toll softly, signalling the transition from the enigmatic watch period back into the realm of sleep, medieval households once again surrender to the embrace of their second slumber. But what does this second sleep hold? As the final vestiges of night embrace the world, cradling it in darkness. In this time, known simply as second sleep, the night becomes a tapestry woven with dreams both serene and surreal. Medieval minds, tranquil from the prior watch, drift into rich, immersive dreams, a playground for the subconscious festooned with visions of angels and demons, saints and sirens. Dream interpretation, an art and science of sorts, thrived during this period. People woke with interpretations ready on their tongues, seeking wisdom and portents within their nocturnal wanderings. Indeed, religious and cultural significance often reinforced the importance of this second sleep. It wasn't merely a wait for daylight, but a divinely sanctioned pause, an interval believed to bring clarity to cloudy minds. Patrons of literature and theology might see divine narratives unfold, while peasants interpreted omens connected to their harvests or village affairs. Yet, this phase was not without its perturbations. In some households, the night watchman patrolled vigilantly outside, eyes peering into the shadows for any sign of mischief that dared disturb their slumber. Even within the safety of castle walls, the ever-present fear of raids, rivalries, or betrayals kept a vigilant few on high alert during these final hours before dawn. The second sleep thus became a paradox, a time of peace, and yet one of unease threaded with echoes of the day's worries and hints of tomorrow's challenges. It mirrored the duality of medieval life itself, restful yet restless, sheltered yet exposed. As dawn stretched its golden fingers across tiled rooftops and fields, bathed in the dew of a new day. The second sleep relinquished its hold. People awoke reluctantly, shaking off the last threads of their dreams as cattle began to stir, and church bells pealed types of community. Monks and nuns marked the closing of vigils with chants of praise, their voices rising in harmony with the awakening world. The villagers, too, resumed their roles, sewing, weaving and building, all the while carrying snippets of dream revelations into their daily toil. And yet, as life resumed its daytime cadence, one wondered, would the coming night mirror its predecessor, or would it unfurl new mysteries to ponder and explore? As the medieval day begins with a gentle crescendo of life returning to its daily rhythms, one might assume the intrigue of night subsides entirely with the rising sun. Yet, medieval society's relationship with sleep and dreams wove itself into the very fabric of everyday life, lingering in the whispers of morning gossip and the solemn reflections shared under market awnings. The impact of the last night's dreams often transcended the privacy of the sleeper's mind, spilling into public narratives. In bustling villages and lofty castles alike, snippets of dream analysis might flavour morning conversations. A ploughman might recount a vision that presaged a bountiful harvest, or a baker might interpret a restless night as a warning of impending bad weather. Such interpretations could influence decisions farming plans, altered, trades postponed, journeys delayed, all attributed to the ethereal guidance supposedly gleaned between sleep's two acts. Medieval folk, different as they were in station and role, shared a common respect for the dream's potential to unveil hidden truths. This cultural texture saw dreams as both a personal and communal resource, potent with meaning and veiled truths waiting to be unpicked, as one might tease knots from complex tapestries. Time-honoured practices began to evolve from these nocturnal narratives. Some villagers turned to local wise women or wise men, those believed to possess the gift of dream insight, seeking interpretations that could sway the choices of entire communities. This medieval lore didn't just colour people's decisions, it shaped their beliefs and worldviews, allowing the invisible threads of dreams to linger into wakeful hours. But the daylight also brought more tangible matters to consider. The medieval calendar was peppered with festivals and holy days, upon which dreams played no small role. These events, ripe with rituals and ceremonies, often saw dream-inspired revelations shared in earnest. Celebrants might act on visions that spoke of divine favour or caution, making these insights not just tales to entertain, but guiding stars, steering lives through the capricious seas of the medieval age. It is this tapestry of dream, life vivid and alive, that infused the waking world with an iridescent, albeit unpredictable, glow. As the relentless churning of daily labour continued, dreams granted a whimsical yet profound reprieve, a paradoxical blend of illusion and enlightenment. As the sun climbs the sky, washing the medieval world in its golden glow, the people find themselves engaged not merely with earthly chores, but in the perpetual dance with their dreams. The waking hours harbour echoes of the night's visions, lending the mundane a touch of the mystical. Every action is a subtle nod to the revelations born out of segmented sleep hour, delicate interweaving of reality and dreams that shapes not only individual paths, but community dynamics. Medieval culture is richly embroidered with the understanding that dreams are more than the ephemeral wanderings of a sleeping mind. They are seen as messages tokens from a place where the divine and mortal realms converge. From royal courts to peasant huts, dreams dictate decisions with a reverence akin to the written word. Monarchs consult astrologers and dream interpreters, seeking counsel on treaties and wars. Their dreams, soften coloured with worries of conquest and betrayal, might alter the fate of entire kingdoms. For the common folk, the symbiosis between dreams and reality expresses itself in more immediate, intimate ways. A farmer interprets a midnight reverie as a portent of weather changes, choosing to sow seeds slightly later than planned. Nearby, a weaver recalls a pattern glimpsed in slumber and diligently replicates it in her loom, hoping to capture the mystical harmony of the design. Even societal norms bear the imprints of dream interpretation. Marriages are sometimes blessed or deterred by the night's visions, as families weigh the prophecies of union or discord foreseen in sleep against the prospects of a couple's earthly harmony. Pastoral rites and community gatherings similarly reflect these nocturnal insights, with rituals often adapting to the shifting narratives imparted by the dream world. Despite this integration of dreams into everyday life, an undercurrent of tension exists a recognition that dreams, with their enchanting allure, can also mislead. Stories abound of seductions by false dreams, leading men and women astray, wrapping them in illusions that unravel only in the harsh light of day. It is this duality, the balance between belief and skepticism, that shapes the continued fascination with the dream landscape. As daylight ventures towards twilight, an air of expectancy settles over the medieval worlder, mingled anticipation and trepidation about what the next round of sleep may unveil. The sun dips, shadows lengthen, and soon the dance between dreams and reality will recommence. As the sun retreats beneath the horizon and twilight stains the sky with shades of purple and grey, medieval life begins its descent into the embrace of the night. The cyclical nature of their existence becomes apparent as villages grow quiet and the familiar routine of preparing for sleep takes centre stage. Yet as familiar as these rituals are, they are imbued with a sense of wonder and anticipation. For the medieval sleeper, retreating into the night is less about rest and more about entering a realm where reality and the fantastical intermingle. The first sleep, or first slumber, as it is often referred, marks the beginning of this otherworldly journey. Unlike the solid stretches of uninterrupted sleep sought after in contemporary times, the medieval night is broken into segments. This first sleep is seen as not just a period of rest, but a gateway into a time of introspection, creativity, and even divine connection. The hours between the first and second sleep were a world unto themselves, a time known colloquially as the watch. Medieval folk might rise and engage in tasks both mundane and mystical during these still hours. By candlelight, a noblewoman might weave intricate patterns of embroidery, her needle guided by the shadows and shapes recalled from her dreams. Meanwhile, a woodsman sharpens his tools, his mind wandering through the visions seen during his first sleep, contemplating their meanings and messages. Yet it is in the quiet and stillness of this period that a deeper layer of medieval life unfolds. Beneath the activities of work and craft lies an invisible tapestry of hopes, fears, and revelations, shaped by the ethereal world of dreams. In noble chambers and peasant huts alike, conversations softly echo as families discuss the omens and symbols that coloured their closed-eye reveries. Perhaps, too, in these deep, silent hours, there lies an opportunity for quiet prayer or meditation, as those inclined towards spirituality seek guidance and clarity. And just as naturally as the mind wanders into the esoteric, it also comfortably navigates the mortally practical. Discussions of alliances, trades, and prayer intermingle seamlessly, each decision touched by the whispered hint of dreams. All Plan 7, those concerning the morning's chores there, subtly infused with the night's gleanings, whispered suggestions from a world where the line between the possible and the impossible blurs. As the night deepens and the stars carve their ancient paths across the sky, the community of the medieval night settles into what some might consider the more restful portion of their slumber, the second sleep. Unlike the slightly more active interlude of wakefulness, this part of the night carries a thicker, hushed quality, as if the air itself quiets in anticipation of the dreams to come. The once lively hearths begin to dim, cloaking the room with a soft, embracing darkness, the kind that allows the mind to unfurl its most secret stories. For many, the second sleep represents a time when dreams become more vivid, where the veil between realms is at its thinnest. In this final sleep cycle, medieval belief suggested that one might draw closer to understanding divine whispers, perhaps even receiving guiding visions that could chart the course of the coming day. Across village fields and forest edges, the second sleep is entranced by nature's own nocturne, an echoing chorus harmonizing with the dreamscape unfolding in human minds. Amidst this somber serenity, the role of dreams takes on an intensified significance in the minds of the sleeping. Stories tell of saints and sinners receiving their callings, prophets discerning twilight revelations, and even the occasional ordinary souls emerging with newfound clarity about their paths. It was during these hours that an artisan might dream of a masterpiece to be crafted, or a farmer might receive foretelling of storms or feasts to come. Yet there remains an air of vulnerability during this second sleep. Unlike the earlier, lighter phase of repose, wherein one might rise to stoke the fire or complete a forgotten task, the second sleep holds its sleeper in a more profound embrace. It is during this time that night terrors may prowl, borderless shadows that play across fear and imagination, making the distinction between dream and reality all the more precarious. Even the rustle of leaves against cottage walls can become magnified into the quiet threat of unknown forces. This dichotomy between the profound and the foreboding embodies the very essence of the medieval knight's trust in dreams. But as the night progresses and faint streaks of dawn colour the sky, there stirs a collective sense of rebirth, a slow awakening to the day's potential. With the sleepy voices of roosters heralding the new light, the medieval world rouses from its segmented slumber, carrying the murmur of night's visions into waking reality. As dawn shyly paints the horizon with tentative strokes of amber and rose, the medieval world stirs from its twilight reverie. The rhythmic chants of monks and the bustling steps of peasants returning to their day's toil mark the dissolution of night's quiet council. Yet, this departure from slumber is not abrupt. It's a gentle weaning from the dreamscapes explored during segmented sleep to the tangible tasks awaiting them. The transition from sleep to wakefulness is almost ceremonial, a dance choreographed by the echoes of the night's tapestry, a medley of divine musings and mercurial dreams, now fading into the light of day. The medieval countryside dons a shroud of mist, clinging to the earth like a ghost reluctant to be cast away by the sun's rising authority. Farmers stir, stretching away the night from weary limbs, their minds still heavy with the night's counsel, trying to make sense of the cryptic language of dreams. Elsewhere, a blacksmith sips his steaming brew, pondering the design of a dream-imagined sword, while a young novice in a nearby abbey reflects upon visions hinting at spiritual quests. In market towns, the marketplace awakens with an air of expectancy, vibrant with merchants setting up stalls as echoes of midnight murmurs subtly guide barters and exchanges. The village wives exchange whispered confirmations of dreamtime prophecies at wells and stallstrust, placed in dreams to reveal prudent purchases or fortunate trades. As children are gently roused from their beds, stories spin around these early morning hearths, rich with recountings of nocturnal adventures in lands touched by fantasy and faith. These tales, both cautionary and inspirational, serve as the invisible thread weaving through the fabric of everyday life, holding communities tethered to both mystical ideals and practical realities. The medieval day unfolds, but it carries with it the shadow of night, each step informed by the revelations and mysteries delivered during the segmented sleep. It's a life where boundaries blur, where a night's sedated wisdom mingles with the dawn's clear-eyed plans. Yet, just as the medieval world finds its rhythm with the morning light, a mystery stirs. In a small hamlet on the edge of a darkened forest, a young woman wakes from her second sleep with a vivid dream moan of hidden paths and whispered secrets. A vision that seems wrapped in a riddle only the waking world can untangle. As the day progresses and the sun arcs confidently across the medieval landscape, the mysterious dream lingers in the mind of the young woman who awoke from her second sleep. Her name is Eleanor, and she was raised on the outskirts of this small hamletta place where forests hug the border of cultivated fields like old sentinels, keeping watch over both the village and the secrets they silently enshrine. Eleanor's dream was not an ordinary one, nor was it easily dismissed by the practicalities of her morning chores. It unfolded vividly, and with a lucidity that left no room for doubt regarding its importance. In the dream, a path appeared, winding through the twisted oaks and mist-clad underbrush, illuminated by a gentle, otherworldly glow. Alongside the path, shadowy figures whispered ancient secrets, revealing glimpses of a world twined deeply with her own. The day matures, and Eleanor finds herself drawn inexplicably to the forest's edge, her heart fluttering with a mixture of trepidation and exhilaration. Whispers of old folk tales about the woodland echoes fill her thought stories of fey folk and hidden treasures, of dangers lurking where the sun's reach falters. Yet, there's an urge that she finds impossible to resist, nudging her to venture beyond the familiar fields into the forest's deep embrace. Within the village, talk of her dream has already spread, shared between breaths and baskets at the bustling market. Some regard it with awe, eager to see how this revelation might manifest, while others dismiss it as mere folly, a relic of an overactive imagination aided by moonlit shadows. Regardless, Eleanor decides to follow the call of her dream, preparing for whatever the forest might disclose. As she gathers her courage, an unexpected ally appears, a shadowy figure from the dream whom she recognizes upon waking. It's none other than her childhood friend, Cedric, now a young man with a quiet strength, honed by years of traversing the woodland paths as a huntsman. Between them, a shared understanding blossoms a belief in the mysteries of the night, the power of dreams, and the courage it takes to seek them. Together, Eleanor and Cedric stand poised at the forest's edge, their intentions deeply intertwined with the ancient woods. With each tentative step they take into the shaded wilderness, they become aware of the forest symphony, each rustle and birdsong a note in a melody older than memory itself. As Eleanor and Cedric venture further into the forest, the air grows cooler and the shadows deepen, a stark contrast to the bright midday sun that dances lightly on the fields they leave behind. The path, just as Eleanor's dream had revealed, twists and turns beneath ancient oaks draped in moss and mystery. Every step seems to echo with the whispers of the shadowy figures she glimpsed in her slumber, as if the woods themselves are alive with anticipation of their arrival. The allure of the unknown propels them forward, fostering courage to delve into the secrets the forest holds. Each rustle of leaves and snap of twigs beneath their feet hints at life unseen but deeply felt. The pair walks in tandem, their movements synchronizing with the rhythm of the forest, their senses heightened by the thrill of discovery. Eleanor occasionally glances at Cedric, drawing strength from his presence. His familiarity with the woodlands provides a comforting assurance that they will navigate whatever challenges or wonders lie ahead. Cedric can almost sense the pulse of the forest, a skill he has honed over numerous hunts and solitary walks. Each sound and scent tells a story, and today it seems they are characters within a narrative that time has yet to unfold fully. Around a bend, they come across a small clearing, its centre dominated by a weathered stone well. The sight of it startles Eleanor, tugging insistently at the recesses of her dream. This stone structure was part of her midnight vision, its significance cloaked in layers of enigma she has yet to unravel. The well stands like a sentinel of the past, its surface laced with vines and etched carvings dulled by centuries of elements. Driven by intuition, Eleanor moves closer, her fingers brushing over the moss-covered stones, searching for any clues the dream might have omitted. Beside her, Cedric keeps a watchful eye, scanning the surrounding woods for signs of movement, for any hint that they might not be alone. Here, Eleanor breathes softly, her fingers tracing a pattern in the stone, a mosaic of symbols invoking both familiarity and perplexity. This was in my dream, it feels important. Before Cedric can respond, the forest seems to hold its breath. A sudden breeze sweeps through the clearing, carrying with it the faintest sound of distant laughter, inexplicably light and ethereal. Eleanor looks up at Cedric, her eyes wide with the weight of unspoken questions that hang between them like the leaves suspended in the air. The clearing falls silent once more, that ghostly laughter lingering in Eleanor's mind like a melody she almost recognizes. For a moment, neither she nor Cedric knows quite what to say. Their shared history gives them a language beyond words, and yet this newfound mystery demands articulation, a way to tether the surreal to the real. "Do you hear it too?" Eleanor whispers, her voice barely disturbing the serenity of the woodland. Cedric nods, his keen senses affirming what both their minds grapple to comprehend. The ancient well, with its cryptic carvings and solemn demeanour, seems to hum quietly, as if resonating with the energy surrounding them. The symbols Eleanor traced begin to glow faintly, a reminder that magic, or perhaps fate, is intricately woven into the fabric of these woods. A pulsing sensation under her fingertips draws Eleanor closer to its edge. "These symbols," Cedric murmurs, leaning in to inspect them more closely. "They're like the ones in the old tales, the ones the elders would talk about during long winter nights." His words conjure the memories of a shared youth, of whispered stories by the fireside about the spirit keepers of the forest and ancient guardians of the earth. A chill seeps into Eleanor's bones, not entirely unpleasant, but a stark contrast to the warmth of the recollections. It's as if the stories were stepping into reality, reaching out to connect their present with an age-old narrative. Then, as if echoing Cedric's thoughts. The carvings reveal a secretan inscription semi-visible under the blanket of moss and thyme. With bated breath, Eleanor gently clears it, each sweep of her hand revealing the elaborate script beneath. It's an invocation, she realizes, speaking aloud more for herself than Cedric. The words are from the old tongue. Can you read it? Cedric nods, a slow smile forming as he deciphers the first few phrases. They're words of protection and calling, a bond between the forest's heart and those who dare to seek it. But just as he begins to read further, a sudden rustling from the dense underbrush captures their attention. Both turn sharply, instincts alert, as they try to determine the source. The atmosphere, charged with expectation, shifts subtly. Footsteps draw close, deliberate, yet strangely comforting. Not the hurried scurry of wildlife, but something or someone purposeful. Eleanor glances at Cedric, her hand still resting on the stone well. Beneath her fingers, the carvings pulse again, more insistently this time. The rustling intensifies, and Eleanor and Cedric stand frozen, their breath mingling with the damp air of the clearing. Cedric instinctively places himself between Eleanor and the approaching sounds, his stance one of both readiness and curiosity. The forest seems to lean in, every leaf and shadow pulling closer to witness what unfolds. From the thick underbrush, a figure emerges, a woman, clad in a cloak that whispers of the forest's deepest hues, mossy greens interspersed with bark-like browns. Her presence is both ethereal and rooted, eyes like moonlit ponds casting a knowing look upon the two travellers. In her hand, she holds a simple staff, more a part of her than a tool, its tip adorned with what seems to be an orb of softly glowing amber. Eleanor feels an inexplicable connection to this figure, a resonance that hums in her bones and synchronizes with the pulsating of the well's carvings beneath her palm. Cedric, too, seems to recognize something ancient and familiar, though no words in his repertoire suffice to describe the phenomenon. You have come, as was foretold. The woman speaks, her voice the gentle rustle of leaves stirred by a tender breeze. The weight of her gaze falls on both Eleanor and Cedric, measuring and understanding in equal parts. Who are you? Eleanor asks, her own voice barely a whisper against the enchantment of the scene. It's not fear that grips her, but our sense of stepping into a destiny written long before her first breath. A path outlined by dreams and the whispers of forgotten tales. I am a guardian of these woods, the woman replies, her staff planted into the earth with a gentle thud. And you, travellers, have awakened its deep magic, something unseen for generations. Cedric nods subtly, acknowledging the legitimacy of her presence, of stories alive in the marrow of their culture. The carvings, he begins, gesturing to the well as if it were a page in a vast book only now being read aloud. Yes, she affirms, moving closer. Her presence emanates warmth, akin to the midday sun filtering through a dense canopy. The invocation reveals the pact of protectors, those who seek harmony with the realm between our world and the unseen. Eleanor's heart beats in time with the circadian mysteries of the forest as the woman raises a hand towards the well. New symbols emerge, lighting with the same gentle glow as the orb atop her staff. It's a dance of light and shadow, an interplay of enchanted forces eliciting emotions she hadn't realized she harbored. Eleanor and Cedric stand transfixed as the forest guardian's hand hovers above the ancient well. The atmosphere shimmers with a luminescent energy that feels both otherworldly and innately natural, as if the very roots of the woods and sky are entwined in this singular moment. The woman's eyes, wise and ancient, yet filled with a spark of infinite curiosity, meet Eleanor's. The spirits of this place have awaited your arrival, she declares, each word a note in a melody harmonizing with the secret history of the forest. There is much for you to understand. As if responding to her assertion, the amber orb atop her staff flares gently, illuminating the carvings which now seem to dance, casting flickering shadows that resemble figures in a millennia-old drama. Cedric feels a pulse of recognition surge through him, mirroring the energies that once whispered through childhood tales. Why us? Eleanor's question hangs in the air, a bridge between the silent echoes of her heart and the profound existence of this guardian. The weight of responsibility blends with an excitement that tingles her fingertips. Beside her, Cedric's steadying presence provides a pillar upon which the tremors of anticipation balance. The forest knows its children, the Guardian replies with a surety that brooks no doubt. It remembers those who respect its boundaries, those whose heartbeats match the rhythm of the Earth's pulse. The words, though enigmatic, resonate deeply within Eleanor. Childhood visions of playful sprites weaving trails through the leaves resurface, painted now with colours truer and more vivid in the presence of this timeless guide. Cedric, too, succumbs to the pull of remembrance, of the bonfires and whispered tales that once wove magic into the fabric of their ordinary lives. As if seeking answers written beyond mortal eyes, the Guardian lets her gaze drift. In that moment of introspection, the forest breathes around them, a gentle sigh of expectation. "There are paths you must choose," she finally says, the weight of destiny weaving through her tone like tendrils of fog seeping through an autumn morning. Eleanor and Cedric feel the magnitude of the decision between them, as though standing at a threshold, poised to enter a world at once strange yet familiarly theirs. Two paths diverge before them, one leading further into the depths of the forest's secrets, the other leading back to the safety of the known world. Before they can voice their choice, a sudden stirring disturbs the silence. Time seems to pause, holding its breath as Eleanor and Cedric stand at the cusp of revelation. The forest shrouds them in a blanket of anticipation. Every rustle of leaves and call of unseen creatures a reminder of the vibrant life enveloping them. The Guardian lowers her gaze, her eyes aglow with an understanding born of ages. As if by unseen command, the carvings on the well blaze with renewed brilliance, each symbol revealing snippets of stories untold. Eleanor watches, her heart echoing the forest's whispered secrets. Her mind races with questions: what truths lie within this forgotten lore, and how do they reconcile with the reality she has always known? "You are not just observers," the Guardian continues, her voice laced with both warning and promise, "but participants in an unfolding tapestry of life and magic. The choices you make will echo through the very bones of this land." Cedric, ever the pragmatist, feels the weight of their decision pressing down upon him. The allure of hidden knowledge battles with the desire for safety and normalcy. Each path stretches before them with an enticing allure, yet fraught with the hazards of unknown expectations. "It is within your power to redefine what it means to be guardians," the woman adds, stepping back to allow the radiance of the well to bathe them fully. "But beware, each path demands sacrifice." A breeze carries the scent of pine and earth, enveloping them in a grounding embrace. Cedric addresses the Guardian, his voice steady despite the storm brewing within. "What awaits us if we choose to delve deeper?" For the first time, a faint smile graces the Guardian's lips, a gesture brimming with both warmth and mystery. Allies and adversaries lie in wait, both in forms familiar and strange. "Secrets of life and death, woven into the very essence of the woods," she replies, her words painting vivid images in their minds. The air thickens with anticipation. The Guardian's presence is an unspoken reassurance, urging them to lean into the trust they have in themselves and each other. Eleanor and Cedric exchange a glance, their eyes meeting with unspoken agreement. Understanding dawns between them, built from years of shared dreams and whispered adventures. All at once, the atmosphere shifts. A rustling from the depths of the forest interrupts their silent communion, and from the shadows emerges yet another figure they did not expect, but whose arrival is as inevitable as the sunrise. The figure steps forward, cloaked in a garment woven from shadows and moonlight. There is a familiarity to their gait, an echo of the forest's heartbeat synchronized with each step. As the newcomer moves into the ambient glow cast by the ancient well, recognition flickers in the eyes of both Eleanor and Cedric. "Is that?" Cedric begins, but his words are swept away by the rustling underfoot and the quiet authority emanating from the figure. Eleanor's eyes widen in disbelief, caught between the certainty of the moment and the gentle ambiguity fluttering in her thoughts. From beneath the shadowy hood, a warm voice resonates, carrying tones that blend the timbre of wind through trees and the undertone of history itself. "You were not meant to walk this path alone, dear ones. The forest, in its wisdom, knew you needed guidance from those who understand both heart and heritage. The guardian nods in acknowledgement, her expression serene, as if witnessing a harmonious piece completing an unfinished composition. Eleanor steps forward, her heart tugging her closer. We thought you were just a story, a relic of the past, forgotten in the echoes of tales told by the fire. The newcomer laughs softly, a sound full of warmth and assurance. Stories have a life of their own, dear Eleanor. They guide, obscure, and reveal the truths we are sometimes too afraid to face. It is through the tales of the forest that I continued to exist, a bridge between what is known and what is possible. Cedric, ever skeptical yet drawn irresistibly into the mythical allure, feels the weight of disbelief lifting an inch. So you're here to guide us. But to what end? To the very heart of the forest's soul, the figure replies, gesturing toward the path shrouded in both fog and mystery. To find your place in the cycle of guardianship, not of dominion, but of stewardship toward a world where balance and wonder braid together like vines. As the moon's glow intensifies, they realize this journey isn't just about magical lore or mystical duties. It's about connection, understanding the strands that weave them together across time and breath. They stand on a pivot, a delicate moment where the future balances on the decisions they're about to make. Take this step, the guardian whispers, excitement mingling with caution in her voice.